I've been hearing a lot about regulation lately, both in the world and also at schools, getting regulated, staying regulated. And at schools, I mostly hear people talking about self-regulation. Now, I think self-regulation is a great goal. To be able to identify your feelings, talk about your feelings, to decide what to do based on those feelings, those are good life skills. When I'm talking with educators, though, and I ask them, what do you mean when you say self-regulation? Mostly what people are talking about is staying calm when we're upset, using your words, not getting so upset about small things. The thing about that is, though, we don't get to decide what are small things for other people. Imagine that a friend comes to you, and this friend comes to you saying something terribly sad has happened. Maybe they had a breakup, maybe their cat is sick. And like in your mind, you're kind of like, ooh, I think maybe you were better off without that person. Or maybe the cat has not been well for a long time, and you actually think it's probably a good thing that they've finally got a diagnosis. What would happen, though, if in that moment you said those things? What would happen if you said, oh, that's no big deal, or there are plenty of fish in the sea? How do you think that your friend would respond to that? Imagine a small child. Let's call her Alma. Alma comes to you on the playground. She's crying. She says, oh, Brandy won't play with me. And she says she's not going to be my friend anymore. She's never going to be my best friend again. And in your mind, you know that Brandy and Alma argue a lot. And they always make up. And so in your mind, you're like, oh, you'll be friends again in 20 minutes. What happens if you say that to Alma? In my experience, if you said, oh, don't worry about that, you're going to be fine. That generally, the child will amplify their voice. So they might get louder, but they might also get bigger. They might say, no, because she hates me. If you continue to deny that experience, she might even get bigger. She might say, no, because I don't want to be her friend either. She might even say, you just don't understand. So now you just went from someone that a child came to looking for understanding to the person that just doesn't understand. Now, although both of these scenarios are made up, I have heard these conversations on school grounds many times. I think that the educator's goal is to soothe and to say, no, you're going to be okay. But the truth is, if we don't feel seen and heard, we're going to do whatever it takes to make other people see and hear us. Now, I'm not saying that we break down into tears with our friend or that we tell Alma, oh, you're right, she doesn't like you and she's never going to be your friend. But if we're not doing either of those things, what can we do? In fact, the most efficient way for most people to get regulated after they've been upset by something is with another person. We call that co-regulation. Now, when you see this picture, how does it make you feel? What does it make you want to do with your body? I'm sure some of you said I would hand that baby right back, but some of us would pick that infant up. Maybe we would bounce, maybe we would rock, maybe we would shh, 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 shh. Right? And that's exactly what is needed for the infant at that time, is to have someone pick them up and loan a little bit of their calm, that co-regulation, give up some of my regulation, share that with the infant, right? So that the infant can become calm. Babies come into this world without being able to regulate themselves. They cannot regulate their bodily functions. They cannot regulate temperature, right? They can't take off clothes if they're hot, put clothes on if they feel cold. And they depend on adults to help them do that. On a good day, that'll help. In fact, even if the baby is crying because it's hungry, if everything has been pretty good up until then and someone picks that baby up, the caregiver, that baby will start to calm down. Now, if you don't get to a bottle, they will start crying again. But initially, they will make use of that regulation even if they're hungry. What happens, though, if the caregiver's having a bad day or just got yelled at by their boss or was on the phone with a bill collector? In that case, it doesn't work as well. Have you ever boarded a plane and then seen someone boarding with a small baby? And you're like, oh no, because you're worried that baby's going to cry the entire flight. And they might. It's possible that the baby will cry the entire flight. And there are lots of reasons for babies crying on airplanes, right? Maybe the baby doesn't feel well, maybe the air pressure, all of those things. But I really believe that part of the reasons babies cry a lot on planes is because the caregivers don't feel calm, right? As soon as their baby starts crying, they know people on the plane are looking at them. They know that people on the plane are being like, oh, I can't sleep, I want to rest, right? they worry that people might be judging them. And so in that moment, they don't actually have good calm to loan to the baby. That's why I always offer, if I'm close, I always offer to hold the baby. Now, mostly people say no. But when they say yes, I'm often able to very quickly calm a baby because I myself am calm. In fact, this is a win-win situation for me. Either I'll be able to calm the baby down and everyone on the plane will think I'm a shero, or I won't be able to calm the baby down and I'll just hand it back to the caregiver. Why am I talking about babies and co-regulation? Because if we want for students to be self-regulated, they got to have lots of practice with us being co-regulated. Think about how many times in a baby's life it cries and someone comes to take care of it. In a relatively good situation, that's thousands and thousands of times before they even get to school. But all of that is context dependent, which is why the beginning of school is really hard for little kids. They've learned how to be calm and stay regulated and do their things at home or at daycare, right? And then we move them to a new context, which is school, and now they have to learn how to maintain themselves all over again in a new context. In fact, in public schools, every year, children change classes, and so then they have to restart in a new context. I really appreciate you watching so far, and I'd love to hear from you. Who are your co-regulators at work? Because we all need co-regulators. Even as adults, we need people to help us maintain our regulation. I would love it if you would drop it into the comments. You don't have to name names, but you could say my co-teacher or a para at my school, my principal. It's always good to hear directly from you all. All right, so have you ever seen a toddler fall down and then stand up and look around to see who's watching and what other people's reactions are? And if no one says anything, maybe that toddler will brush themselves off and go on about their play. But if someone has gasped, that baby might burst into tears. And I know that sometimes adults look at that and they say, ooh, that's some manipulation. Or they think, ooh, that child is only crying because other people got upset. But the truth is, even as toddlers, even as little kids, we are still looking to our adults or older siblings, older children, to tell us what is safe or not safe. If a toddler falls into a patch of poison ivy, they don't know that they're now going to be covered in itchy hives. So they're looking to adults to decide how to respond. That's true at home. It's also true at school. And so far we've been talking about children who are growing up with a reasonably good, predictable home life. But not every child gets that. Sometimes parents work a lot. Sometimes parents move a lot. Sometimes the structures that are part of our society make it hard for families to do well. It's hard enough for a kid who has a reasonably good, predictable life up until the moment you meet them to regulate in a new situation. But if they haven't had those supports and structures, it's likely to impact their ability to accept co-regulation and to really understand what's happening when we try to help with co-regulation. Okay, so how can we help our friend? With our friend, we might say something like, wow, that sounds hard. Ooh, that sounds sad. I'm sorry you're going through that. Those phrases allow for someone to feel seen and heard, to feel understood. As it turns out, those same phrases will help Alma. Ooh, that sounds hard. That sounds sad. Right? If she's crying, you could say, I can see that you're upset. If you can relate with how she's feeling, that's even more helpful. Maybe we say something like, I would be upset too if my friend told me they didn't like me anymore. Now, don't lie. That is not necessary, nor is it useful. We're looking for some kind of phrase that you can really get behind. It could be as simple as, I can see that you're really upset. We don't have to come up with new phrases for every situation. Alma doesn't know that yesterday you said that to David. It's okay to just use the same phrase that if it works for you. You can watch this video from Crying to Connection and see how Miss Rose handles similar situations in her context. We all need to feel seen and heard. And this is one way that we can do that. These phrases will not solve the problem of our friend or of Alma. I understand, I see you're sad, I would feel sad too. Those don't solve the problem, and that's okay. Problems are complex. The idea, though, is to make sure that we're not just trying to soothe over the problem or encourage people to deny their feelings, to stuff them, to pretend they're not having them. We need our feelings to make sense of the world. It's an integral part of who we are. There are things that make us sad. There are things that make us angry. If we stuff them, hide them, bury them, they're more likely to eke out sideways. Before we start talking about fixing the problem, we want to honor the feelings. Now, I'm not saying that we wallow around in our sadness or spend all of our time raging, but I am saying that we need to honor those feelings in order to be able to do the next thing. Self-regulation is about being able to identify our emotions, being able to honor those emotions, hopefully in the context of another person, and then being able to decide with our prefrontal cortex what we want to do based on those emotions and our thoughts. When we're young, we're really dependent on our grown-ups. That includes educators, teachers, caregivers, all the grown-ups in our lives. We really do depend on them to help us get through these stages. And if we feel like we can't turn to an adult to help us identify, honor, and decide, then we'll do it on our own, or we'll go to our peers. Co-regulation is a really efficient way to help someone else get regulated, stay regulated. It means we take the time to help someone identify their feelings, that we give them some time and space to honor those feelings, and once someone feels really seen and heard, then we can talk about what should we do next. I'm always interested in hearing how these things work in your classroom. Please feel free to share in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe for more content. Take care, y'all.